Hello, my dear friends. This is a series where I take you to a verse of the Bible, of each book of the Bible, and just meditate on it. It's something to start the day with. So you could call these daily starters. And maybe that's a good expression. Boy and his Bible, daily starters. You reading, but this is just for you to say, as a thought. It's a thought for the day. Well, this thought for the day is from Genesis. And we all know the book of Genesis, the patriarchs and all that. And this is the unusual verse, and then I'm going to give you a usual verse. And this it goes like this. And the Lord said unto Cain, Why art thou wroth? And why is thy countenance fallen? If thou doest well, shalt thou not be accepted? And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door, and unto thee shall be his desire, and thou needs to rule over him. One of the saddest things in life is when we blame circumstances or situations for our own responsibility in falling down, doing and giving into temptation, being tempted. You can say that in the Garden of Eden there was a simple test, which was a fruit off a tree, the knowledge of good and evil, and we all know the story. Satan is there, and when they're all discovered, you've got the man saying, "It's not my fault. The woman tempted me," and the woman saying, "It's not my fault. Satan's tempted me." Well, you can't say that here. Now you've got a man, the first man born, and you've got his younger brother, maybe his twin. And what is taking place? The one is accepted and the other one is not accepted. The one who's not accepted, his face has fallen, and God talks to him. God talks to him before the temptation grows inside him. And the temptation that grows inside him is to get rid of his brother, who was accepted. But you can't blame anybody, Cain. You can only blame yourself. That's the point of the story. And if sin is knocking at the door, you've got to deal with it. Otherwise, sin will deal with you. That's the message. It will control you, or you will control it. It was a powerful verse for me, that I needed to accept responsibility for myself. And at the age of 15, I knew that I had to accept the rest of my life I was responsible for. And I had to say no. Many years ago now, I was invited to give a talk to a group of well influential men in the city of London and their wives together. And the subject they gave me was temptation. And of course, one of them was sex outside of marriage. And the question came up, which I answered: what happens with temptation when you, in an office situation, can build up a relationship with another man or another woman, and the temptation to have sex outside of marriage is there? Well, let me tell you, there's only one person to blame: the person who's been tempted. You can say no. That's what this verse means. This is a definite word from God for you and for me. You can say no to temptation, no to stealing from work, no to not doing the right thing at work, no to being unfaithful to your husband or your wife. There's a wide range of things that you don't have to give in to temptation. Now, if you do give in to temptation, as you have with the story of Joseph, when you have Joseph being tempted, he had a serpent in the form of a woman. The serpent wasn't there any more than he was in Cain. That was a story that took place to give us an illustration of temptation. But you are responsible for being tempted. This is what James says in his book when he says, when we give in to temptation, it brings forth sin, and sin brings forth death. And the lust of this world will always be there. You can be tempted to be rich. You could be tempted to be known And there's many kinds of temptation. But at the very end of the book, Jacob has died, and the 12 sons, or the 11 sons of Jacob, are worried in case Joseph wants to take vengeance on them because they had given in to temptation. So what happens when that happens? Well, that doesn't mean grace can't overcome the wrong that's been done. All things work together for good, and all things work together for good to Joseph. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good. You know this verse. To accomplish what is now being done. And what is now being done? The saving of many lives. So when the temptation has worked against you, because you've said no, that can turn out for good, because that can be the salvation of many lives. There's two verses. Accept responsibility for yourself, number one, and number two, also see it that you turn the evil into something good that can be a blessing to others. Two words from Genesis, two verses from Genesis, two ideas from Genesis concerning temptation, which flows through all the Bible. Who is responsible for what? Boyne's Bible. Thank you. See you tomorrow, I hope.